Israel's government has approved plans to capture the whole of Gaza 19 months after the war with Hamas started. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his forces will not launch raids but will stay for an unspecified amount of time. And a warning, this report contains distressing images.
These tanks in southern Israel today are getting ready to move into Gaza. Israel's war, almost 19 months long now, is entering a new phase with perhaps permanent consequences for the 2 million Palestinians that live there. The Israeli cabinet has said it will call up thousands of reservists and intensify the fighting to conquer large parts of Gaza and then occupy them.
We decided to take intensified action in Gaza. That was the Chief of Staff's recommendation, to move, as he said, toward the defeat of Hamas. He believes this will also help us rescue the hostages, and I agree with him. We are not letting up on this effort, and we will not give up on anyone.
How long Israeli troops will remain in the parts of Gaza is still to be determined, an official has told Sky News. But some senior cabinet members are already saying it will be permanent.
We can no longer bear the pressure, the war, the killing, the death and bombing. We can no longer endure anything. Hunger, destruction, displacement from one place to another, every day in a different place. Frankly, we need a solution. We want a truce. We want a long-term truce so that we can rest, so that our people can rest.
What more can happen? Children have died. Children have been displaced. Children have gone hungry. Homes have been destroyed. What more can happen?
At least 17 people were killed in airstrikes on Sunday night. They were buried today. Fighting in Gaza resumed in March when Israel broke the ceasefire after a 2-month pause. Since then, no hostages have been released and Hamas has not been defeated. Food is running out and fuel supplies are extremely low. Our team filmed these queues in Gaza City. Israel says there is still enough aid in Gaza to go around, but the evidence on the ground is of desperation. Israel says it is now considering letting aid in and looking at ways to distribute it. But no plan has been revealed and no timeline set. President Trump is due to visit Saudi Arabia, Qatar and the UAE in 10 days' time. He is not currently scheduled to visit Israel. Israeli officials say there is a window for Hamas to agree a new deal before Trump arrives in the region. If not, they will launch the new offensive and drive Gazans out of the north, perhaps for good. Alistair Bunkle, Sky News in Jerusalem.
Well, joining us live now for more on this is the former IDF spokesperson, Jonathan Conricus, who often provides us with some excellent insight to what's going on. Jonathan, thanks for your time. So, look, a little shy on details, as Alistair just pointed out then, but what do you understand this mission to be here? What's the ultimate goal?
Yes, thank you for having me. Hello again. Shy on details, but not shy on drama. And short on one very important name and organization, which really is the reason for everything happening. And that is the terrorist organization that launched the war on October the 7th and that took 251 Israelis and other nationals hostage and is still holding on to 59 Israelis and other nationalities, 24 of them presumed alive. And that is blatantly missing from the report, and anybody watching might get the wrong impression that this is some imperialist Israeli aggression, when in fact it is Israel defending itself against a terrorist organization. So as to the aim, I think what we're seeing now is Israel extending negotiations on the battlefield and trying to apply more pressure on Hamas in order to release hostages and surrender. If you ask me if it's going to be effective, sadly, I'm quite pessimistic. I don't think that it will have the desired effect on Hamas, and I think that eventually Israel will be left with no other option but to take significant, long and continuous action against Hamas, and then perhaps unseat them from power and take away their military capabilities that are threatening Israel.
So when you say long, what's the time frame there, indefinitely?
No, nothing is indefinite, not in any part of the world, and definitely not in the Middle East, but longer than before. And, if we compare the war that Hamas started with Israel a year and a half ago to other wars in the Middle East and in the world, usually at the end of main combat operations, there is a significant transition period where the winning side, which in this case will be Israel, actually controls the ground and makes sure that the area can transition from being under the rule of a terrorist organization or a totalitarian organization or the Islamic State, whatever historic reference you'd use, and then to transition into a different type of governance. And I think that is what will eventually happen. So if you're asking about timeframes, I think we're looking at months of high-intensity military operations. I think it's important to know that Hamas, for the time being, they're still hiding in their tunnels. They're not coming out and they're not fighting. I think they will continue. They will do so once Israel will start to distribute food in Gaza. Why is that important? Because then that will be a real threat to Hamas's governance, and then they will come out and they will expose themselves, and then we will see a spike in activity. But in any case, I think we're looking at, again, if Hamas doesn't return the hostages and surrender, we're looking at months of fighting.
Look, I'm quite positive that there'd be booby traps in those tunnels. So, I mean, would you have to take the war into the tunnels, though?
You see, what's preventing Israel from effective tunnel warfare is the fact that we know that Hamas are hiding Israeli hostages inside tunnels. And that restricts the Israeli military's ability to effectively use various tactics and techniques against Hamas as they're hiding in tunnels. Had it not been for the Israeli hostages, then I think that most Hamas terrorists would have been dead already, either suffocated or drowned or otherwise blown to pieces in their tunnels as they're hiding underneath the civilian population and using the Gazans, starving them and using them as their human shields.
All right, Jonathan, thanks for your time as always. It was good insight again. We'll chat to you again soon.